fool, 'cause I finally found someone who really cares. You held my hand when it was cold, when I was lost. You took me home, you gave me hope when I was at the end, and turned my life back into truth again. You even called me friend, you gave me strength to stand alone again, to face the world out on my own again. You put me high upon a pedestal, so high that I could almost see eternity. You needed me, you needed me, you needed me, you needed me.
Lady, I'm your knight in shining armor, and I love you. You have made me what I am, and I am yours. My love, there's so many ways I want to say I love you. Let me hold you in my arms forevermore. You have gone and made me such a fool. I'm so lost in your love, my love. We belong together. Won't you believe in my song? Lady, for so many years I thought I'd never find you. You have come into my life and made me whole forever. Let me wait to see you each and every morning.
Welcome everyone to the very first webinar in the year 2026, courtesy of Ivan Research Institute, Nigeria. I want to thank you all for being here at this time and wherever you're joining from. My name is Tonia Onyeka. I'm the Associate Director of the Ivan Research Institute, Nigeria, and we're happy all like for you to quickly take your phones out, for those of you that have your phones, and scan this QR code. So that's the first thing that we need to do. Let's scan this QR code. As the QR code is on the screen, we're going to, for those of us who are on our phones listening to this webinar, we're going to have a code in the chat. So we're going to have the code for this poll in the chat is a simple poll that we would like for you to have and answer two very simple questions real quick. Those links are going to be in the chat for the duration of this webinar. And so I want to thank you so much. So while you're doing that and getting to the links to answer the two questions, we're going to go ahead and introduce our very special guest today. So first of all, I'm happy to introduce Adebola Ehizele. Adebola is a dentist who has over 27 years of experience in dentistry. She's currently the professor of periodontology at the University of Benin, and she's a consultant periodontologist and current deputy chairman, medical advisory committee, and she is in charge of the research and ethics at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. She's also a CETER scholar. Our next speaker is Dr. Eiche Zibo. She's an associate professor at the University of Nigeria. She specializes in thrombosis and hemostasis, and her focus mainly is on the von Willebrand disease and platelet disorders. She has received several fellowships, including the MEPIN fellowship, and she's been supported with international grants, and she's a CETER scholar. She continues to contribute to artificial intelligence governance initiatives. And our third speaker is Dr. Ijeoma Ifora, who's a senior lecturer at the University of Nigeria. She's a research associate here at Ivan Research Institute. She's trained in virology, and her research focus is on virus-induced cancers, pathogen genomics, and molecular epidemiology in African populations. She's also a CETER scholar, and she's had several awards, and she's been funded for several of her research, including being a recipient of the American Association for Cancer Research, the Big Cat Award, and several others. And so without much ado, I'd like to welcome them. They are here with us today, and they will be answering some of our questions, burning questions before. So I would like to welcome Professor Ehizele. Please put your camera Professor Ehizele, please put your camera on. Dr. Ifora, please put your camera on. And Dr. Ezebo, please put your cameras on. Thank you. Okay, so my camera is stuck in limbo, so let's just go ahead. So thank you so much, wonderful, beautiful ladies, for being part of this monumental webinar today. So many people have been asking us questions, and we said today is the day that everybody gets to have their question answered. And so I'm going to start with a general question for everyone. I need you just to give me like 2 minutes, just 2 minutes of your time telling me what is most burning question that everybody has. So I'll start with Dr. Ifora. And Dr. Ifora, the question that we want you to answer is, what are the things in your career that you think made you the ideal candidate for the CETER Scholar Program? Is there anything that people can learn in your career path, or even if it's not even related to your career, that positioned you in the place where you were able to get this opportunity?
Thank you very much, Professor Tonia, for that question, and thank you everyone on the call. I will say that one thing I think, in my opinion, that kind of set me apart from every other applicant was, I think in my application, the hunger in me was palpable in my application, because I was able to show that I was no more comfortable just being an ordinary academician. I wanted to do impact. I wanted to be impactful. I wanted to learn. And so I think in my application, that hunger to learn, wanting to improve myself was very conspicuous. And I think that's probably why I was selected when it was my cohort's time for application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ijoma. Thank you so much. Professor Isele, so you heard the question. So the question is, what is that thing that you did right about your application to the CTS Scholar Program? Or what is it about you that gave you an edge?
Thank you, Prof. Onyeka, and good evening, everyone. I'll say that, maybe in my application, I made it very obvious that I got to a point in my life when I started asking the question, so what? So what? So you have gathered evidence, and I just recently had the opportunity of being a scholar for Oral Health Initiative, where they taught us how to gather the highest level of evidence with systematic reviews and all. And then I was just newly introduced into translational and implementational science. So I was now asking myself, so you have been able to write so many papers, and then so what? So I think in my application, I made it obvious that I needed somebody to teach me how to impact, how to translate we've seen gaps, yes, we have evidence, how to translate it to maybe project changes in our policies and ability to be able to do things that we get to the root of the problem and take away the problem. So in my application, that was what I was looking for. That was what the hunger to was there. And it was like I needed some form of brain transplant. I needed somebody to move me from where I was and to start doing new things. So I would say that was what it was, the need to be able to take all the evidence gathered so far in my career to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Isele. That's interesting. So we're seeing common themes here. We're seeing common themes already. Dr. Iche, what about you? What is it that you think made you to have that edge? And what is it you think when the assessors went through your application, they said, this is it, we need to have her on this program? Because there are a lot of people here saying, we're going to put in our applications, but we want to be in a place where the reviewers will say, this is the application that we'd like, and this is the applicant we want to come on this program. So what do you think is, in your mind, what do you think is the qualities that you had or the qualities in your application that made the reviewers grab your application?
What precisely is a gap that's been identified? I've been curious about the particular problem, the bleeding problem that I want to find solution to. I've been curious about it. Then finding a CTS scholar to help package the grant, make it more strategic, okay? Be able to refine it, make it more strategic after attending the CTS Scholar Program. I think it's finding a research gap, a problem that needs solution, finding a gap that needs solution, that needs to be solved to affect human life. I think that is the main thing, finding the gap and then packing the the grant in such a way that it will sell. Thank you.
Okay, so that's interesting. So there's a common theme for our three scholars here, which is the quest to do more than regular. So all three of you, none of you were comfortable with being just where you were. For instance, Dr. Eyuche just mentioned right now that there was a research gap and she needed to do more, and she needed to bring, to refine her thoughts about it, and she felt this program would be the best place to help her to learn to do that. And I'm sure she has learned that. Thank you so much. And I'll go back to ask Dr. Zibo. I still want to ask you a question. And the question I have for you is, how did the CITES Scholar Program change can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so how did this program, so how did this program, the CITES Scholar Program, change the way you approach research or grant writing or even your career development? Can you share that with?
Yeah, CTS Scholar is a milestone. I will use that word in my career path because it helped me from being curious, from curiosity to being strategic. Before joining the CTS Scholar, I don't know what implementation science is all about. And then I needed to apply for a research grant that is institutionally based, not just a personal grant. Some of the fellowship we get or funding we get, probably because you're a scholar, because you're a faculty member, you'll be able to access some funding. But I needed a larger scale funding, and you can't do that without an institution. And CTA program gave me that platform from being a curious person, because my career projection or interest actually started when I was working as a lab scientist with a consultant gynecologist. I came to encounter women that experienced bleeding. Some of them, even after going home with their baby, they came back. And there was one incident that was very, very pathetic. The husband couldn't stop crying. So I reached out to the consultant I acquired. He himself was very devastated. He was maybe some sort of inherited stuff. So from there, I begin to develop interest. And from information I'm getting from research, from all the investigation I'm trying to get from teaching hospitals, I found out that there is absolutely almost nothing that is being done about it. So it's raised that curiosity. That's what I'm trying to explain here. It raised that curiosity in me, but curiosity has to be strategic. And that is what CTA helped me to do, okay? Refining that my strategic, packaging it in such a way that it will translate to policy, it will translate to something that can help humanity, okay? Not only the research or science or trying to say the solution, but also how does it now relate to solving the problem of humanity? How does it translate to improving the life or condition or situations of the population, which is what most funders will also like to see, translating that your research into something that will help improve health. Thank you.
That's really interesting, because I hear you, and I hear you when you say you're not comfortable with just knowing the science, but you want the science which is what implementation science does. You want it to be real. You want it to step down to the people that need it, so their lives will be better. And CTS Scholar Program helped you, organize yourself and get to that trajectory right. And that's really nice, because a lot of questions have been coming about that. Professor Izeme, the question I have for you is this program, and we're going to hear from the director of Ivan Research Institute in a few moments about this program, the components of this program. So when you think about the CTF Scholar Program and the components like the mentoring, the grant writing, the peer learning, the webinars, the NISA conference, which ones had the most impact on you and why? It could be one, it could be one.
That's a very difficult question because they all had impact. Even from the one I was used to, as in the research question, the ideation. From there, I was taught how to communicate. You know, there's a way you write proposals. I used to write proposals and you are talking to yourself. But CITEL program taught me how to even bring answerable questions that are scalable and implementable. That was number one thing that I got. It was shocking with the 5 easy approach that we were taught. Okay, so there's a problem. What do you know about the problem? What are you planning to do about it? What are you going to use to do it? And then you are writing something in 1 page, you're already communicating, and you can get somebody to say, if we don't deal with this person, it will be our loss. That was the number one thing I first got. Then that the NIH grants, submitting NIH grant was something that I thought nobody would do, but they were able to demystify submission of NIH grant with the hands-on mentorship. I remember when we started, Professor Izanolu said, if you are here to take jottings, I mean, to listen to us and write something down, then you are in the wrong place. It's something that as we are doing it, you open the sites and you are looking at grants that you can access that will match you perfectly, that you are eligible for. Don't bother with the ones that you are not eligible for. And then you have to also learn the call of for submission. You have to know how to read it and sieve out the important things, and then be ready to be able to go before you even try to submit anything. So they demystified it. And they attached me to a mentor. That was something so great in my own time. Dr. John Olayipo, who was so devoted that if he tells you he's going to do 1 hour, that 1 hour, he will be completely on your matter. You share your screen, he's teaching you how to even correct errors real time. I had that. I had the pre-award office. They were there. I didn't know you could wake up 12 midnight. Madam Amaka, we were trying to submit grants together. It was incredible. The full support, stepwise, to make sure that you get it done. So that's what. And then also this soft skill. I was taught the soft skill, how you can even call a program officer. I didn't know that was possible. You could write them, ask to have meetings. They will not just ask you go meet with this project, and they will also be at the meeting. All of that support, it was something I did not know it was possible in mentorship, because it was like your success is our success. So that's for me. Okay, so if I'm going to say which one was the most amazing part of my program, it would be that real-time 24 hours mentorship that I got. And then, of course, there was something we used to do, research in progress meetings, where everybody will come and beat your proposal, your work into shape. Everybody from all over the world. They will listen to you talk, and then they will help you beat it into shape. Then they can take it as many times as you want, still trying to help you correct it. For me, that was incredible, and that's remarkable for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this leads me to the question to Dr. Ijeoma Ifara. Dr. Ifara, what are the tangible outcomes or opportunities that resulted from your participation in the CTF Scholar Program? I know there were a lot. I mean, that's part of the reason why you are here. Yes, as our staff.
Yeah. So the first tangible output, I would say, is the opportunity to be here to share my story, and then kind of put a face to the fact that ordinary people can actually get a grant. Before, and my output actually started immediately after at the end of my scholar program, right? But before then, when we entered during my cohort, the goal was to submit a grant, and so till this day, when I go for any application, my goal usually is let me hit the submit button. Once I hit the submit button, whatever happens afterwards is not under my control. And so shortly after my program, I was able to get BCAT award. BCAT award, it's Beginning Investigator Award for Catalytic Research. This is an award for Africans, both Northern Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And each year they give just 4 awards, And so immediately after my CTI Scholar program, it was around that period that I was also packaging the concept notes or the proposal that I submitted for this award. And then it was, I will not say that I was surprised, because even by the time I was applying, I knew that the proposal was a good one, because CTI also helped me to organize team, when we were doing the packaging. Eventually, when I was selected, we were actually 2 from Nigeria that was selected during my cohort, which was, when you go back to their history, you will realize that this is the first time that 2 awards are given from the same country, in a year. And then during the award taking, I noted that amongst the 3 other people, those 3 other people have submitted earlier, received a review on their previous submission, and resubmitted. I was just the only one that was submitting for the first time and getting that award. And this, I will give credit to this from my CTI Scholar program. And then shortly after that, I also applied for the TWAS DFG, which I got. I also applied for the RF Research Development Fellowship, which was also awarded. There were also ones really that I applied for that were not successful. For example, I applied for Genetech award that was not successful. But like I said, one key thing, that's what I count as my output immediately after my scholar program, is how many grants have I submitted. I've submitted my first NIH grant, which I didn't realize that human beings can actually, submit NIH grant. And so CTI took me by the hand until I hit the submit button. I've submitted a couple of them. Some were successful, some were not successful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's also still a recurring theme that some of the things that you pointed out, also Professor Izele pointed out, which is that the mentoring, then creation of teams for you, these are some of the things that helped you. But I'll still ask you another question, Dr. Ifora, and which is, what mistake did you stop making in terms of research, in terms of grant writing and related things after you joined the program?
Hey, yes, I'll take a cue from Professor Izele. Yes, I think they came shortly after us. We were not, I think it was fortunate for me, really. We didn't get that one-on-one, they attach you to a mentor where you sit with the mentor every hour to review whatever you have written. So in my cohort, what we got is we submitted our weekly assignment, which was reviewed and returned back to us. And so that kind of, I was a bit disappointed, really, if I'm being honest. But therein, I learned something, or I developed something that I will tell you that if I was held by hand, sat one-on-one, there is a special skill that I have now that I wouldn't have developed. Because during that CTI Scholar program, I realized that mentors are busy. They are super, super, super busy people. And so if in my case, which I think is a life lesson for me, if I'm approaching a mentor and I'm expecting that mentor to give me 1 hour of their time every week or even every month, it will be, for me, I think it will be stretching it too far. Oftentimes, what I have learned is that I should be the driver of that relationship between a mentor and a mentee. And so once I come across you as my mentor, I take charge of that relationship. I give what I think my mentor is looking for. I so much give that this mentor is forced to give back to me. And that has helped me because subsequently, the mentors that I have acquired along the line, I'm just being very real. They will say, there is something really interesting about this girl. Because during my CTR Scholar program, I realized that I don't have to sit back and wait for a mentor to come and tell me, Ijeoma, this is what you do. I go to them. I call every of them that I can call, apologize for taking their time, and still say what I want to say. And so for me, that is a very good life lesson that I have learned, which I wouldn't have had it been I was giving that specific mentor that, spends time with me one-on-one. It's good to have that, but when I know at the back of my mind that these people are busy, it kind of pushes me to push beyond what I would have ordinarily done to get something out of them. Yeah, thank you.
For sharing this insight. It's really interesting, and I'm just going to say this for people joining us from around the world, that your cohort, Dr. Ijeoma's cohort, which was the cohort 2, did not have the mentoring pairs. So they had to send in assignments and then the mentors will review and send back to them. But by the time we transited to cohort 3, cohort 3 now had to have the mentoring pairs where they had individual experienced researchers paired to them. And then they did the work together at their own time and at their own convenience. So we can see that there are two models side by side, cohort 2 and cohort 3. But then still the success is evident. And it takes me to my next question for Professor Ehiziele. Who do you think would benefit most from this program, the CTR Scholar program? And what advice would you give anyone who is considering to apply? So there are 2 questions here. Who do you think is the best fit for the CTR Scholar program? And what advice would you give everyone who is on this call who is considering making the application this year?
Okay, so I think everyone should be interested in this program because we must all want to learn and relearn. There were several things that I knew how to do, but I was doing wrongly. I gave example of research questions, setting the research question. There's a way you write. You think that you need to impress with the technical details of your work. And then by the second paragraph, you have lost your reviewers. There was a soft skill that I had to learn to be able to communicate without really going into the technical details and get people interested. So if you are you have been writing for many years, you have many publications, but your major interest is to get funding for what you really want to do, because 90% of what I did up until this moment was self-sponsored. And then how far do you think I can go with my salary? So now, if you think that you want to really do something impactful and that can change the world, you need grants, and you need sustained grants to be able to have, something scalable, like we said, and something sustainable. So if that is the truth, if that's what we are saying, that we want our researchers to answer questions, then everyone should be interested in it. And then the second question of what do you need? You just need openness. You need sincerity. You need commitment. You can't give excuses. I remember that when the first assignment we got, they just gave us the assignment and gave us a deadline. And then everybody thought they were joking. I was so shocked when we were told that, oh, this is adult education. Those who did not submit the assignment will be dropped.
Yeah.
And I said, this is where I want to be. So for me, you need that. If people are putting in at no cost at all, they just want to improve the work you do. And then you cannot be diligent enough to give as and when due. Then I don't think that whoever cannot do that should not bother with this course. But other than that, openness, what's the word I used just now? I mean, if you are dedicated, and then if you have ideas that can change the world, then you should apply for this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Izele, because that brings another comparison between cohort 2 and cohort 3. Okay, so cohort 2 did not have the peer mentoring, they don't have the mentoring teams, one-on-one mentoring, but cohort 3 did, which is your cohort. Cohort 2 had this, if you don't make it a certain amount of attendance, homework, and that you drop. So Dr. Ifora is one of the few that made it in cohort 2 because many dropped by the wayside. So it's really interesting as we listen to your story and hear your perspectives. And this takes me to the next question for Dr. Ezigbo, which is, Dr. Ezigbo, can you share with us your most single useful mentoring moment in the CTS Scholar Program? Your most useful mentoring moment in the CTS Scholar Program?
I can say it's the grant writing, the mentoring pattern, then the grant writing process, the mentoring pattern in the sense that what will actually make you get through, it's when you are persistent, okay? When you are persistent and you also give time, okay? When you are persistent, then you also give time to the mentors, give enough time, okay? That is, you give enough time, you don't rush, the process, you don't rush your inquiries. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't rush you give the information, whatever information you need to be extracted from them, you should reach out for that at a very good time, just like Dr. Ifora pointed out that they are very busy people with heavy schedules. So you give that time, the mentoring process, and also the time that is given to you at that critical moment of your time, of your grant submission or critical point, whether you're attending an interview or submitting grant. At that critical moment, you find out that everyone zeroes down on you. Whatever you click, whoever you ask for, one thing or the other, they actually give you that attention, because just like Ehizele also pointed out, CTS sees one person's success as the success of all. They see it as if it sings, all of us sings, then if it goes well, all of us. So that spirit is what actually I take out from CTA, okay? That mentoring pattern of CTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, true. It is. What at CTA and at IVAN, what we believe is that if one individual succeeds, all of us have succeeded. We're in it together. We're a team. And so that's one of the many reasons why scholars have been successful with this program. I was also expecting Dr. Ezigbo to talk about, for me, I would have said your most spectacular mentoring moment was at the REPRO program. So the REPRO program is the Research in Progress meetings held every Monday for a select group of researchers who have work. Yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah, it's part of that mentoring system. Okay, that review of your proposal.
For your presentation in London.
Yeah, that review process and feedback process is excellent, because it's actually helped me to scale through, just like Prof, Prof gets it hard on us, but that's hard on us. It's what we actually needed, because all those questions he was asking me were what I actually faced when I went for my Welcome Trust interview. Everything I was asked revolved around what he was hammering on during that process. And also what I will also talk about is the review process in ICTA, the review process for your research grant, that multidisciplinary team that brings strengthen your research, the multidisciplinary team, yes, from every angle. If we're able to answer everyone's question in that team, that means your proposal is clear. Okay, your proposal is clear. Okay, so that is another thing I'll recommend. I commend CTF for that multidisciplinary team research review, and also the feedback, because I've actually applied, I applied for TED Fund. There was a time I applied for TED Fund before joining CTA. I don't know whether they've started giving, I didn't get any feedback, nothing. So I don't know how what I applied for was, but CTA with the review process for everyone's research proposal, it's good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. So this is really wonderful. There are questions coming in, but I want to appeal to all the participants of this webinar. I'm sharing the barcode again, and we are asking these questions to help us improve on the program. We want to know what you think about these questions. So can you kindly scan this QR code if you have a phone, or pick the code or the link from the chat and just answer 2 brief questions so everyone can do it while we continue talking. So thank you so much. We want to thank the 3 of you. You've brought in a lot of perspectives. I know that there are more burning questions in the minds of our webinar participants today. But before we get to answer their questions, we're going to have a presentation. And that presentation will be coming from none other than the director of the Ivan Research Institute, Nigeria, in the person of Professor Echezona Ezanolu. And for that, I'll stop sharing my screen and I would invite him to go ahead and begin his presentation. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. I hope that this is clear. I'm in transit, but I thought it was important that we continue this. Again, I'm going to ask you to see if you can share the screen for me. Thank you so much. Can you put it on slideshow? There is a black thing that, okay, it's gone. Good. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Professor Hizela, Dr. Fora, and Dr. Uche for providing that context for everyone. It's interesting to look back at the several cohorts and then see how there have been changes from one cohort to the other. And those were important because they were, as each of the cohort started, we learned a few things along the way. The first time that you see, we had those we have those cohorts where what we just did was provide generally every one of the topics that we went through and then ask them to submit things, and we were trying to respond to them. One of the things that we got in feedback, which is why feedback is important, when Professor Onyeka is asking you to give us feedback, that's the only way we're here and able to adjust and make improvement. So we got some feedback that they wanted a little bit more dedicated mentors. So we started changing a little bit to assign each individual a mentor and then have a secondary mentor at the same time. So for everyone that comes into the, you get a primary mentor, which is someone who is going to be your go-to person every day. But then I get to be a secondary mentor to everyone that is in the program and will have a chance to answer your questions. So we did that for a little while, and then we saw some progress in it. We saw a lot of change in terms of people who got to the end. In the first part, like Professor Nyaka was mentioning, a lot of people dropped out of the way because if you drop 3 successive times, we drop you from the program. So we dropped a lot of people from the program. It was very few people like Dr. Fora and the few of them that finished in that cohort. In the next cohort, when we assigned individual mentors, we see the number of people increase. We still see people who drop because they couldn't do that. Then the third time, we actually did charge for this program, so you understand. So we decided to get a coordinator to coordinate this program. So that cost money. So we decided, you know what, we are going to charge a little amount of money for this program, entire program of the 1 year. And that if you submit your grant, you will get back that money. We had a number of people who actually got to the end jump to 50%. So we know that it does matter. When people commit their time, commit their money, suddenly they paid very close attention, and most of them got to that completion of that. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to try to provide is a little bit of a background, but I wanted to start that with saying thank you to Professor Nyaka as our lead faculty and mentor. The CITIA program is housed in the CITIA, in one of our centers, Center for Translation and Implementation Science of the Ivan Research Institute. We have an institute with different components. Each of the centers contribute to the CITIA program. So as you see the names of the faculty and mentor, they come from other centers at the Ivan Research Institute. So we basically have transitioned this, even though we retain the name of CITIA Scholar Program, to be a product of the Ivan Research Institute, understanding that a lot of the mentors come from also outside of the one single center, but all the centers of the Institute. So thank you to all of them that are here for this year. What we are hoping is that as we have people who successfully submit this grant, that they become part of the faculty. So as you can see, those 3 that you spoke to today, you don't see their name here, but in this coming cohort that we are advertising for now, you're going to see, and you may be lucky to have either Dr. Professor Hizele, Dr. Ifor, or Dr. Uche as your mentor. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the umbrella on which we all operate. The Nigerian Implementation Science Alliance was started in 2015. It was a collaboration of almost, now and then it was 25 programs. They have been climbing since then to almost 50 programs involving research institutions, universities, policymakers, and implementing partners. One of the foundational part of this was all the HIV programs in Nigeria. They were the ones that we were able to get together, and they all decided to do this. Form a forum, and I'm going to show you in the next slide. Next slide, please. The main category of things that they wanted to be able to do. So one of the things, the 3 main objectives when this started, were with the goal to generate, evaluate, and disseminate evidence in implementation science to improve outcome. The 3 main objectives they wanted to do was to create a dissemination platform, bringing together policymakers, implementing personnel, researchers, funding agencies together to be able to discuss and be able to identify barriers, identify potential things they can do about it, and then be able to focus on the things that are of importance. The second thing they wanted to do was to enhance the capacity in implementation science for a well-educated workforce, both for research and implementation. Nigeria is a resource-limited setting, but one thing that Nigeria may not be a resource-limited setting is in terms of well-educated people. A population of 240 million people, a lot of people in Nigeria are young people who are actually well-educated, much more than educated in many other countries of our size in LMIC. So even though we are a low and middle income country, we do have a large population of well-educated workforce. And that is, this specific aim is one we're going to focus on. The third one is building research infrastructure to conduct clinical trials and implementation research. That is important. In the last slide that I showed, I have shown you what we call the ICON practice-based research network. These are sites that are selected from 21 comprehensive centers that we feel that are the best ones in Nigeria Most of them are not in the teaching hospitals. Most of them are not in the universities. Most of them are actually secondary health facility. But they had very characteristic things that we liked. They had a large population of people, so they serve a large population of people. Some of them deliver more patients in those hospitals than university hospitals. So we picked those people. They have at least one doctor, two doctors and two nurses, because we didn't want a place that have only one doctor, one nurse, and burden them with research when they have a lot of these patients to see. They also were in places that people could travel to. So they weren't, at the time we selected them, they weren't security risk places. So we ended up selecting 2 sites from each of the 6 regions. So we have 12 sites that we call the classic laboratory site. This is where we test new things and are able to go ahead and use them to inform the policy that we make and inform practice. So what I'm going to focus on today is to talk about the specific objective number 2. Next slide. That objective number 2 is the one that is focused on enhanced capacity in implementation research for a well-educated workforce. Next slide. And I'm going to go over the platforms that we have used to achieve this over the last 5 years, that since we started this program. You will see what Professor Nneka was talking about our weekly research in progress. This is 2 to 3 hours every day. Every week, once every Monday, we get together and you have a chance as someone that is involved in the City Scholar program. Once you get your specific gotten together, approved by your mentor, you will be able to come to here and present it to a lot of general people who come from different countries, different settings, different environment, and they're able to listen to your project and be able to give you feedback. And as Dr. Uche was saying, sometimes these are people from different fields than yours, and they're able to understand. And once you get to the point, they're able to understand what you're trying to do, understand your research project, you know you're on the right path. Because that's when you're talking to only people who are in your own specialty, you think everybody understand what you're doing. But then people who review your grant are not all in your specialty. So you have to be able to write and discuss your project to the extent that people who are not in your specialty understand what you're trying to do. Next slide, please. In the next slide, I just listed all the platforms that you will be able to see. So we talked about the weekly research in progress. We talked about the monthly webinars, which is the first Monday of every month. So there are 12 in the year. We talked about the NISA Research Week, which you see on the side here. It's really a beautiful opportunity that we have one week that we block out 2 hours every day for the whole 1 week. Usually we bring in experts from outside of Nigeria. We match that expert from outside of Nigeria with experts from our own country, either in Nigeria or from other African countries, match to those individuals, and then they're able to share their own experience. Sometimes he's discussing their research project. Sometimes he's discussing the frameworks, the designs of all the things that you require to write your proposal. So you see someone talk about this is APIS framework, and you find someone in Nigeria who says, this is how I use APIS framework for my project. So it is very, very well attended and popular program that we have once a year. Then you have the research administration and grant management, which they discussed. Those support are what you need. I don't think as experienced I have been, I don't think I can submit a grant without the Office of Research and Sponsor Project. So a shout out to them. They also have concurrently formed an organization in Nigeria called CARA, Consortium of African Research Administrators. And if your institution doesn't have a good research administration, but this is where you can ask them to join CARA, and then they will actually learn how to put together a research office, and then this office can help you or help the institution put that one. They do the trainings, they do things to be able to help the institution set up their own grant management office. The idea we want to do is to really break down barriers and expand grant and grant management admission, proposal development, research applications among all institutions in Nigeria. These are not limited to any geographical area. As you can see, we have sites in all the 6 geographical areas. We have people that participate in this from all geographical areas. Then we talked about the annual NISA conference that's once a year, every September. Then there are postgraduate training programs that we have. One of them, of course, is this test scholar program. The other one is the auto program, scholar program, which is focused on individuals who are interested in oncology research. And then the new thing that is going to be coming out this year, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, is that we are starting for the first time a certificate program, a master's program, and a PhD program in Nigeria. That will be the first program in implementation science in Nigeria. Is also going to be the second one in Africa. The only other one in Africa is at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. Next slide. So this is the component of the program. It is a 12-month program. The first 24 weeks is going to be didactic sessions. In doing that didactic session and mentoring, so you will be sessions with your mentor, sessions with your mentor for the first 24 weeks. After that, then the next 24 weeks will be mentoring alone. At this time, we have gone through all the didactic. You are now applying those didactic, writing your grants, and then be able to get your mentor help you at every stage. So during that same time, you will be able to continue to do all of this stuff that I listed here, the weekly seminar of 1 hour for 24 weeks, the weekly research in progress 2 to 3 hours every week, the bi-weekly mentoring that you have with your mentor, which usually happen about 1 hour for about 50 weeks. It is an intensive investment of time by the mentors. And Dr. Ford, I was telling you, you are going to drive that mentoring for you to get the best benefit. If you come to the mentoring with a piece of paper and a pen and say, tell me what to do, then you are not ready for this. This is you coming in and said, I need your help with this. Can you help me with this? What about we look at this? Can you do this with me? So you are going to drive the areas that you need the mentoring instead of waiting for somebody telling you, what should I do? You talk about the annual research week that we talked about an annual conference. Next slide. And this is just to show you a little bit of the people over the time that have attended these conferences. You can see in 2023, we had 2,565 people. 2024 is 2,700. By the time we put this together, 2025 was in September. It was 2,500. I think there's an updated list on this. Next slide. Next slide. This is previous cohorts. To be able to put that, you can see the list of individuals who have been there, and you can see the diversity of institutions where they're coming from, whether it was University of Lagos, whether it was from Kenya, whether it's from South Africa, at the University of Nigeria, University of Ibadan, Ahmadu Bello University, Covenant University, Obafemi Awolowo University, Federal Medical Center, Abeokuta, University of Nigeria. So these are very diverse institutions. Like I said, we don't respect geography. What we respect is intellect. So you are a good candidate. We don't care which part of the world you are in. If your application meets the requirement, the excitement, and what we are looking for, you will be accepted into the program. We do not do affirmative action. We do not say, oh, you are from this part of the country or this. No. All the people that apply for this grant and the best grant are from Ahmadu Bello University, we will select everyone that apply from Ahmadu Bello University. It does not have to be from University of Nigeria, from University of Ibadan. We do not have preset institutions. What we look at is the individual application, and then we will select the top best application. Last time we had 168 applications, and then we were able to select 15 out of that. Next slide, please. I'm going to move quickly through these slides. These are just the names of the people for the next cohort so that you can see also the diversity we are talking about in terms of their next slide. And you can also see again here the different places that is here. You can see, for example, you can look at this. You can see AQs. There are 4 different applications from those places. Again, telling you that we do not have this, say, oh, we selected 2 people from here, or we can only select 1. No. If the best applications come from those places, we select the best applications from those places. And that's something we want you to know. So when you put together application, try to be able to be able to show what is it that you're doing, what your focus is, where is it that you want to go to. so that you can see, because what we have changed also is that for you to be selected here, we also have to have a mentor for you. So we also take applications, we select the first round, and then we present it to the mentors, and the mentors will pick the ones they are happy and excited to mentor. And again, this is where they are clearly, the mentors can see that this is an area they can actually impactful provide feedback and mentoring to that individual. So being able to clearly state those things are very important. Next slide. These are the topics covered. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because you're going to look at it in the time, but I'm just going to see you that this is a lot of topics covered once every week. You can see that coming in from anatomy, we start with how do you find the research to apply for. So that may be at the stage you are, and we start that. So those things are there. We do not say, oh, everybody should already know those. No, we don't assume anything. We actually start from the beginning. How do you find a research program? How do you decide on the research to write? How do you start those things? So you can see how we start from that beginning all the way to the end when you actually have to. We have only one outcome, that is success. That is submission of the grant. Getting the grant is God, not us. But you are sure that 100% you're not going to get a grant you did not submit. Miracles don't work that way. For miracles to work, you have to first of all put those grants together and submit them. If you know anybody that got a grant they did not apply, please let them meet me so I can learn from them and see how they did that magic. But that's not how we do magic or miracle. How we do that is to help you put together an excellent application that is competitive, because you're going to be competing with the rest of the world. These applications are not only to TED Fund, they are actually to all the applications that people apply from every part of the world. So you have to compete. The applications we are sending here are really focused on competitive applications where you go. We use the NIH grant as one to do the training, but you can find out that we support every type of application. Welcome to us, ACRCR, many different applications. But we use the NIH model to train, because we feel if you can put together an NIH grant, you can put together every other grant from that place. Next slide. Again, so this is one of the things we are looking for. Like I said, you can apply for this from any African countries, from any university in Nigeria, from any research center, from any programs in Nigeria. All we want to look from you is a first concept and an idea. We were looking for ideas, concepts that are feasible, that are culturally adapted to our environment, that are sustainable, and that will lead to a transformational outcome. And you are willing to dedicate the time for this. There is no need for you to get into this program if you think you are not going to have the time for it. One is that you waste your time, you waste everybody's time. And the second one is that also you wasted your money. So we don't want that to happen. So ask yourself, am I ready for this? Do I have the time to this? Can I dedicate the time for it? And if you can, then you can apply for this. It's important. We do want people that have advanced degree, which means a terminal degree. We want you to either have a PhD in whatever related field that you think you are going to be coming from. Next slide. Before, we had limited this to health courses, but we don't anymore. We actually tell you, if you think implementation science is important, then like that. One of the things that will improve your application is if you also, at the time you're applying, you have identified where you want to apply to. So that means you have done some work. Say, I just don't want to just go learn how to do this. I actually have my mind to apply to WHO program on climate change and health outcomes. Or I want to apply to UNESCO implementation on how to improve childhood education. So implementation science goes beyond health to education, to other programs. So we wanted, so if you have a concept and you have where you are going to submit that application, your chances of being selected are higher. Why? Because we know that you have actually looked at that application and said, this is a funding agency that funds applications like mine. And I have looked at people who have submitted there. I've seen the kind of thing they've funded. And so you have shown a lot of self-driven interest. If we want to talk about people who have fire in their belly, these are people who have demonstrated interest. So in addition to that concept, having that application where you are going to say, this is the application I am targeting, this is my concept idea, I need help to develop that. You begin to score the highest scores that we use in selection. So remember that when you try to put together your application. Next slide. Again, I talked about it: nurses, pharmacists, social scientists, health communication experts, public health practitioners, other related disciplines. What I will need and the team will need to evaluate your thing will be your concept, and then what if you have identified them. It does not mean that you must identify one to be selected, application to be selected. Sometimes you have a good idea, we will help you select those things. Sometimes even the one you selected as where you want to apply, we tell you there's even a better one that your application would do. So the first thing is a strong application. Putting in where you have to do that means you have researched that. It shows us interest. It shows us that you have done part of the work and you are the one that is self-driven, that will go and look and find those things instead of waiting for somebody to give you that. So the two of them becomes very powerful. But if you have a very good application, even and say, I don't know exactly where to submit this and I need some help with it, that would be a very good proposal, that will a concept that we look at on its own. Although if someone has the semi-equal, very good concept, but they also have an application where they have intended to apply to it, they will be telling us something more than you have told us. So as much as possible, put together application and look and say, this type of application, where am I looking? Who funds it? That tells us you have done some work. Next slide. This is in terms of actually what we put here. So we put this here in terms of program costs. The first couple of cohorts that we did, we actually did not charge any money for it at all. As we grew, there were two things that we noticed. We actually did that experiment. We asked that we told you about, where we charged that minimal amount of money to be able to see what happened. Suddenly, the people completion went doubled by 50%, went from small number to 3 times that number. So we recognize that this is important. When people actually devote their time putting their money, they actually pay attention to those things. Suddenly people are saying, I put my money to this, I better learn from it. And then we saw that number of people who missed lectures decrease. The number of people who were working on their project who did not complete their project decreased. The number of people who submitted increased. So all of those things meant there. So what we did was to bring in a coordinator, and that's what that funding supports. Your mentors do not charge money for those mentoring. So all of them volunteer their time to do that. But what they ask is that if somebody can make the schedules for them, get open up the folders, make sure that they have the applications in the meetings when they want it, help with the research administration part of it in terms of putting together your application as you are going to do that. So this supports the grant management office that helps you in submitting the grants. Your mentors do not charge money for this, so just remember that. So you're grateful to them. They give up their time for what they do. Next slide, please. We're coming to the end of this, but I wanted to use this opportunity to just talk a little bit about the next slide, please. To talk about the new program that is coming out this year. And that is the certificate program. So this had just been approved. This will be like I mentioned, this will be the first certificate program, master's program, and PhD program in implementation science. The application for this, the CUF application, will be coming out this month. We are hoping to complete this selection by April of this year. Before selection, people who are selected goes into this program. This is the degree is well approved. It has been approved by the University Senate at the University of Nigeria, and also approved by the Vice Chancellor of University of Nigeria. The Minister for Education and the Minister for Health supports the training of this program. We are working with them to see that this is included in TED Fund. So if you actually get a TED, if you apply for TED Fund will fund you to do this. If all of you noticed, TED Fund has indicated they will no longer be funding people to go outside of the country to do for those kind of training. But one of the things we're getting from them is that they will fund you to do the certificate program, the master's program, and the PhD program in this. So hopefully that concludes and people can actually look for that funding to be. But it's designed to be a funding program that is funded by individuals who want to be able to learn these things. The PhD program I wanted to spend a little bit more time is unique from every other program that you want. And also the master's program, you see what we call an embedded program. It means at the end of that program, you are actually going to go to an office for 1 year if you are doing a PhD to be a resident implementation scientist. So you might go to the Ministry of Health, you might go to the IHVN, you might go to the MPSCDA, you might go to the NCDC. So we are going to bring all of these organizations to speak to the PhD candidates, and then during that period, they will select that place where they want to go with, and then they will go there, spend that 1 year. This is the time they actually write their thesis. And what we are hoping and plan is that thesis over time will be focused on the grant proposal that you're going to submit. So our plan is that every PhD program, every PhD candidate will submit a grant. And that grant, with that preparation for that grant and everything they do is part of their thesis. We hope that in our selection, we are going to be looking for people who are self-driven, because a few things that we're going to do here is not in lecturing. We are not going to have pen and paper. For example, if we want to teach something like EPIS framework, what we are going to ask you is for the PhD student to read EPIS framework and present it in class. And then there will be a discussion among the PhD student and the lecturer and the professor who will be taking care of this. After that, we are going to bring Greg Aarons, who developed the EPIS framework. This is one of the things we have in this training program that you won't see anywhere else in Nigeria or most other countries, because that's what they like here. We have a global faculty. So our faculty comes from people who are funded in implementation science across the world. We just came back from Zambia, where we met a lot of them, and a lot of them agreed to be part of faculty from this. So these are individuals who are doing research in this area, have been funded to do research in this area, and have experience in this area. These are people who develop the things that you use, the framework, the theories, the papers that you read. These are the people who are going to be that. What they're hoping to do for Nigeria is that in the first 3 years, they're going to train 10 PhD people in implementation science, and these 10 PhD people will become the local faculty and then begin to build that capacity in Nigeria. So this is going to be a very, very informed thing. This particular application is going to be competitive, very, very competitive. I have no doubt about it, but it's going to be one of the best experience you will have in Nigeria, because you're going to have exactly the same type of curriculum that you will get at Harvard. Why? Because we use Harvard thing, because it's there, it's out there. This is the component they covered. The only things that are different will be how they teach it at Harvard and how we're going to teach that. And you're going to have Harvard faculty who volunteered to be able to help us develop this capacity. This is the world, in my opinion, coming down to help Nigeria develop its own capacity in Nigeria. Because one of the problems we presented to them is that of all the 100 people we sent to do their PhD abroad, only 2 come back to Nigeria. So this time we're actually looking for people who are in Nigeria, who for some reason or the other, whether it's their families, whether it's lack of access, who are not able to travel outside of Nigeria, but who are interested in proving themselves to be able to get a world-class education in Nigeria. So we are really all excited and looking forward to these PhD programs, the master's program and the certificate program. So watch out in your mailing box when the opportunity comes for the informational. We are going to spend a little bit more time to give information on this. Next slide. This is just a thank you to all of the partners that we have over the years. Some of you may work for any of this organization, but if you do meet anyone from those organizations, the leadership of those organizations, say thank you to them. They are the ones that make the NISA conference so possible. They are the ones that support a lot of all the infrastructure that's been built around the Nigerian Implementation Science Alliance, the practice-based research, and the Ivan Research Institute is a coordinating center for both NISA and the ICON3 Practice-Based Research Network. But these are the partners that make it happen. These are the partners that make the cost so low These are the ones that support a lot of you. Go to the conference, it's $100. I go to D&I conference in DC, it's $850 to schedule for that conference. So we have been trying in so many ways to keep this accessible, and it's only possible because of these partners. So I'm going to stop here, and from here, take your questions. Thank you. I know we went a little bit over time because of opportunity for the other thing to do, but here, please, you can go on with your questions, put in your questions in the Q&A, and we will pick it from there. So you can, are there questions in the Q&A? I see one question that is there. And it says some of the mentors are busy, and if you keep pursuing, they cut you up and tell you they are busy. So this is not one of the things that we do. That is one of the things we said. If you apply for this program, your mentor already accepted to be your mentor. So that is the last part of the selection. So we take the application we have selected, we present it to the mentors and say, do you want to pick the ones you want to mentor? So by the time you are selected, your three things has happened. Your concept was very good. You have identified a funding place, and the mentor have also identified you as someone they're interested. We have matched you with a mentor. So when you start, you're not going to be looking for a mentor. We'll be providing you one. So that's one of the things that we are. Again, I am not going to answer questions that are in the chat. You can please do not read questions that are in the chat for me. The reason is that one of the things people don't get when they fail with the grant is that they refuse to follow instruction. So the instruction here is, if you have questions, put them on the Q&A, and we will answer those questions on the Q&A. And if there are no questions, then we will close. But if you have questions, please do put them in the Q&A for us to answer them. I see a second question there. So the second question, thank you, I say, are the postgraduate training programs only for Nigerians or people elsewhere can apply? No, any person from any African country can apply. We have extended this application because there's only one program in PhD in implementation science, and that is at the University of Nairobi. So what we are trying to do here is actually to let this expand to all African countries. So you can apply to African countries or anywhere else from around the world. We will give preference to African countries in terms of that selection to help us reach as many people as we can. Like we said, we want applications from every part of the country. We will not select, we will not give preference to just because people are from Nigeria. No, we will give preference to Africans, that includes Nigeria, with the best application material. So please do apply from anywhere you are. The next question is that, is the program going to be Nigerian only? So I've already answered there. No, it is not Nigerian only. You will have to apply for that. It is based on your application. We will give preference to African applications before other continents. Again, because the other continents have more opportunity than Africans have. As I mentioned, there are 51 postgraduate training programs in implementation science. There's only one PhD program in Africa among that 51, and that is at the University of Nairobi. So this is going to be the second PhD program in Africa in implementation science. So we are open to African countries to be able to do that. When is the PhD program likely to start? So we have finalized that application. We are going to begin this. As I said, this month in February, you will get informational session. There'll be more on that PhD discussed at that program, but applications will be out by then. So once the application is out this month, we will set up a date for the Q&A. We are hoping that the selection will complete in April, and that's when we'll start the first program. The next question is, will the PhD be virtual? It is it's not just a virtual. There is going to be sessions that are in person, and that in-person meetings will be in Enugu. There will be virtual sessions for the didactics. There will be a time, for example, we're doing a workshop on writing grant. You may actually have to come down to Enugu for a week program where everyone that is in the PhD program comes in with their proposal. So you write a certain stage, you come in there, and that 1 week, all the mentors will come back and we use that period for your grant writing. So that is one thing. The second part of it that is not virtual is in the last 1 year where you're going to do your embedment. It's like an internship. You will have to be. in this. And sometimes you may actually design it. So you do it where you are working. It depends on how you design your project. So your field work, your embedment, maybe where you work. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're working at MPSCDA, and then you decide that you're going to do your work on implementation science in vaccine. And then you actually go back there and looking at how to improve HPV vaccination. And that is going to be doing it at MPSCDA. So you can go back to your institution for the last 1 year, spend that 1 year in your institution, but at that time you are really working on your project. So that is something that you see also that is there. So not all of it is going to be virtual. There's going to be mostly virtual, but there are components of it, and you get more of that during the informational sessions. And it talked about, and the embedment part of the program, 36 months. No, the embedment part of that is just 12 months. So there are 36 months of the total program. 24 months is going to be the topics covered, the lectures, all the things that are going to do, and then there will be that part. Remember, for example, if we're doing systematic review, we're not going to give you a lecture in systematic review because we should have had that lecture in systematic review. What we are going to do is that you are going to do systematic review. So at the end of this systematic review class, you will send in a publication for systematic review. We want you to graduate from that PhD. So somebody said, do you know how to do systematic review? Yes, check. Have you done a systematic review? Yes, check. Have you published a systematic review? Yes, check. So this is not a theory. Please do not apply for the PhD if your idea is to just go to class and then be cooking and be listening to the class. No. You are going to participate in the virtual classes. It must be video only. So if you cannot have something to sustain your video, do not apply. So I want to make sure people are very clear. We are not going to be doing something where we're having a class and people are cooking or sleeping. Because last time we did it, people are snoring in the class. No, you must turn your videos on during classes so that it's going to be there. So even though it's virtual presence. So you have to be present in the class, even though you're virtual. So I want people to understand that those will be some of the questions that we will look at, that when you're applying, you intend to be able to have that infrastructure to join video classes. So our virtual classes are not, they are virtual classes when we come on, everyone turn on your video, and then attendance will be taken by the people who turn on their video. If you do not turn on your video, you do not attend that class. And 50% of class grade are participation. So I want to make sure you hear more about it that is done there. So you say, please, how do I see the program but it's available? So you will see the PhD is a single one that we're talking about here. There are many other PhD programs at the University of Nigeria. What we're talking about is the PhD in implementation science, which is a better implementation science. So again, please look out. We are going to send out the application, open application. If you attended here and you completed the form that you registered and you put your emails, we are going to send it to your emails. That's one thing that we'll do for you. Everyone that has sent it here, we will send to your emails the information about the application. I also, the same time, about the informational session. So the same way we had this session for CTIA Scholar, we are going to have a session for the certificate program, master's program, and PhD program. So I'm answering some of the questions here, but a lot of those questions I will also answer at that point. Again, we are over time, so if you need to drop, you can drop, but I will continue to answer all the questions that are put out here. So the next question said, what is the criteria for being admitted into the PhD program? So one of the things, we will give you more information, like I said, but one of the things that we want to do here is that we will look at people who have a master's degree to be able to do that. We may consider individuals who have a first class in their bachelor's who want to combine a master's and a PhD program, and we may admit them as such. And that would mean that when we admit them for the master's, we have a position open for them at PhD level. Both will be for those who scored the first class in their bachelor's degree. But otherwise, we need you to have a master's in related courses to be able to do that. This is for the PhD. Of course, we have a master's program which you can go and first of all with your bachelor's. We also have a certificate program. So even if you already had a PhD in another area, but you want to focus on implementation science, you can also do our certificate program. that certificate program, the courses and the grades, if you finish that certificate program and you decide, well, I want to do my PhD, for example, because you already have a PhD program, and you do the certificates, you don't have to do another master's program. You can go on to the PhD program with that certificate courses that you have done also in that particular area. So again, more information will be provided for you if you join up in that. Is it for all disciplines? What we're looking for is individuals. The PhD is not a PhD in nothing. It's a PhD in a focus area. So it's a PhD in implementation science. So again, implementation science covers every area in education, in certain, but you have to make a case for why implementation science in your area is important. Remember, so when you're applying for this, the first thing will be to go and read a little bit about implementation. Say, what is implementation science? Does it apply to my discipline? Will this help me advance my career? So when you go and you see the areas where implementation science can make the most focus, implementation science is where they take the evidence that already exists and systematically use it to advance health outcome, to advance outcome in education, to advance outcome in agriculture. So you can apply implementation science in many disciplines, but read a little bit about it and ask, is implementation science relevant to my specialty before you apply for this? So you can see that. So learn a little bit about implementation science, see whether you apply for it, and then make the case in your application how the degree in implementation science will do that. We are not looking for a lot of people that want to just say, I want to do PhD so I can get a teaching class. No, that's not what we're looking for. Yes, there will be people who will be teaching, but we want them to teach from practical areas. So we want people who are there. So we will select a few people that have already been in programs. For example, HIV program, the TB program, the immunization program, whatever program, they've been there for 10 years, that have a master's, but they want to get their PhD. That is someone that have an expertise that we like, which they have a program expertise. We also get people who are coming in who have no program expertise, who are coming in, just finish their master's and want to do their PhD, so that we can pair them in class with somebody who have no program experience, with somebody who has program experience, and we want to be able to do those kind of things. Thank you. I can see that the questions keep increasing the more I answer them. Is the virtual presence also required for CITIA Scholar? Prior to this cohort, we have not required the virtual presence for this cohort. It may be one of the things that we will require as we become the selection, but that would depend on the mentors for this year. I can see that is coming from one of our mentors, Stephanie Ibemere. Dr. Ibemere is at the Duke University in North Carolina in the US. So we do have mentors who are outside of Nigeria. So I'm sure that we haven't required that virtual presence for that because of so many different things, because of the time. And that time is usually in the night, and we didn't want people to, so we have had people doing it when they're already in bed with their, so we don't want to have those videos and that, but the PhD program will require the virtual presence to be able to do that. So you have to set up and commit to that time and go. If everybody's gone to bed, you go down to the dining and you set up your computer in your dining and you participate in the class. So that is not going to be done in the bedroom. We will decide on the CITIA Scholar, but we have not required the virtual presence in the last one. Going forward, I see what are the requirements for admission into the master's program. So again, the master's program is that you completed a bachelor's in a related discipline. And one of the things in a related discipline is that you, first of all, we want you to make sure that that's why we want you to do your homework. If you just go to the internet, said, is implementation science relevant to my putting your first degree and where you want to go to? And also sometimes people also want to move from their own focus in their first degree to implementation science. Those are the people who say, do your certificate program. That will help you enhance your certificate because that is like a diploma. So let's say you did a biology implementation science. Let's say you did history as your first degree, and you said, I want to do implementation science now. Then you would like to go ahead and do the certificate program before you apply for the master's program, because that will enhance you because you are moving from one specialty to a different specialty like there. But if you did something like a bachelor's in public health, the master's program will be appropriate for you without any extra things because you have done the basic things. But if you're coming in from a lot of those different areas, the certificate program may be very helpful for you to make sure that you are doing something that is worth the money that you're going to spend. That is there. So is a PhD in educational psychology eligible? I will let you do that homework. So you will go into the internet and say, is implementation science relevant to educational psychology? But by the way, you say educational psychology. My father was a professor in educational psychology, so it's an interesting specialty for me. But I want you to do the homework. Ask yourself, make that decision, go research about a PhD that you want to do, and make sure that it's relevant to what you want to become. Like again, I said, some people want to do it because it continues in what they're doing. Some people want to do it because they want to move to another area to open up more opportunities for themselves. Implementation science is what we call in medicine disease agnostic. So you have implementation science in pediatrics, implementation science in OBGYN, so you can put in cardiovascular disease, so you can apply it for so many different areas. And in so many fields, like I said, you can have implementation science in education. Implementation science is how do you take the science of education to enhance outcome for education. But again, go and do the homework for yourself to make sure that the application, when you're sending an application, you're applying to something that you wanted. Moderator, I think I covered every question that I see here, right? Anybody still here with me?
You did, Prof.
Okay. All right. So we covered all the questions that we can see in this place. So I want to thank you for attending this, and I want to ask you to start today to prepare for your proposal and then submit your application. Thank you everyone who has attended, and goodbye.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, everyone. So the active link to the application is in the chat, so you can access it. So you start applying. Thank you. You can also share to your social media platforms and to your colleagues. Thank you.